Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. To those of you in the audience, to everyone who is watching us online, thank you for joining us again for this second day of our conference, the closing conference of our free speech project on protecting free speech and media freedom. We're very happy to be here in Thessaloniki in excruciating circumstances of heat. So thank you all those for being here for your stamina and perseverance, but the topics we're discussing are so dear to our hearts, are so important for many people that the discussions remain very passionate and very interesting. Yesterday we had the first day of discussions on substantial changes, developments, positive developments, rollback often in free speech, in the situation regarding free speech in different countries in Europe. We had this country-based approach. We saw how interacting with the implementation mechanism can generate success stories when circumstances are correct. We saw situations of mitigated success, and we also discussed the situation in the most difficult jurisdictions regarding free speech. We also saw in the last panel, we discussed some interesting sub-themes regarding free speech, emerging trends, but also the difficult situations member states are faced with when what is at issue is the adoption of measures to resolve problems that are linked to some kind of balancing exercise between free speech and other rights or other values worthy of protection. At the last part of our first day, we had to stop the live stream because we discussed the situation in Russia, and it was the situation is indicative. We had to stop the live stream for the protection of people involved in that discussion. So already it is indicative of how serious the situation is. Yesterday, for those of you who were following us, we had the pleasure and honor to have with us Dunja Mijatović, former Commissioner for Human Rights and former representative for the Council of Europe and former representative on freedom of the media with the OSCE, who gave a very insightful speech and comments on the situation regarding free speech Europe-wide, connecting the situation with the democratic state of play in many jurisdictions, talking synergies and highlighting the importance of institutions being open to cooperating with civil society to push reforms forward. So the need for creating an enabling environment for us and our colleagues to do our job properly in free speech related sphere and beyond. Unfortunately, because of some internet-related problems that were persisting throughout the day for Dunja, we could not follow up on her great speech with some questions and answers, and she was gracious enough and to join us again today for this Q&A session. So I welcome you again, dear Dunja, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for making yourself available for a second day in a row. It's a very big pleasure and honor to have you with us again. And to take it from where we left it yesterday, we were discussing, when we finished our discussion, the importance of synergies, the importance of NGOs, NGO representatives finding open doors when we are trying to approach the institutions to do our advocacy work. And my question to you that I already expressed yesterday, and we can start with that, I think, is that you have had an extraordinary parcours, professional journey so far, having served from positions of high responsibility, the biggest regional organizations, institutions, and I wanted to ask you, because the question of synergies is a very important one. I'm just not sure we're using the full potential of cooperation between them that can be achieved. So my question to you was, from your perspective, is cooperation among the different regional institutions in place already? Is its full potential already explored and tapped on? How can we do better in general, how the institutions can do better in cooperating for resolving, for pushing forward reforms on the free speech area, and how us as civil society representatives can contribute to that, to the extent that it is allowed to us, given this continuously shrinking space for civil society. The floor is yours, and then it will be with the audience to ask you questions that have been pending since yesterday.
Thank you so much. Good morning to all. Fingers crossed that I will stay, online as long as I answer these questions. Today there is no water, so I can inform you, but anyway, at least, electricity will stay strong, and the mobile network, which is even more important for this. So I'll try to really go straight to the point. It's a very complex question. It is the question of many scholars and academics that actually try to analyze it for international organizations, but also for a wider audience, in order to stop any kind of duplication. It was also going in that direction. Why do we need so many different mandates doing the same thing? But I can talk about this and brief you on it as somebody, as a person who actually lived it through. I mean, I felt it, myself when I tried to do things differently. And the first thing, which I think is really important, that the synergies among different human rights mandates. Yesterday, I just mentioned the UN, then Council of Europe Commissioner, including different other bodies and departments within the Council of Europe, the OSCE with the 3 human dimension institutions. And then, of course, the UN special procedures and mandates that are extremely important, particularly when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and many other issues. This is, as I said, strategic. It is essential, and it is important to sense, I would say, that the civil societies is aware that all those mandates are true to their role. Of course, that's not always possible. It is not always possible that civil society is on board when it comes to certain decisions, sometimes silence on the side of the mandates. Or one mandate being extremely open about particular issue in particular country, and then the rest is really no action at all. What I think is there is a shared commitment to monitor, to report using very, as you know, diplomatic language, and I broke this rule on many occasions, rightly so. I stand firm, but by all my statements where I was really very direct in order to raise awareness among civil society as well, when I saw there is a threat to human life and safety, even though that was never met with recognition. In a sense, not recognizing, me as a person, but recognition of a way to deal with this. But as I said on many occasions when I was asked on it, I stand firmly, on this, and I think it was extremely important. So during my mandate, I tried at the OSCE, and I did several statements with the then Council of Europe Commissioner, my dear friend Nils Mužnieks, and it was on Azerbaijan. We wrote some op-eds jointly on issues related to, for example, defamation in Italy and some cases. So we were both open to cooperate. But it's not always like that, and it's not a negative thing. It's also based on different membership of the states. Some organizations have 57 participating states. Then you have Council of Europe less than that. So it's very problematic when it comes to the procedures and the mandates. And then the main question is, what are we going to achieve with this? Of course, it can create more noise, and it can create sometimes, very positive results. But those mandates were not really created in order to have joint public statements. When it comes to joint work, that is sometimes under really different agreements, and it's not that public, was also something that I did with several colleagues. Again, with Niels, we were at the same time, there was a conference in Azerbaijan, in Baku, so we were very fine and even eager. I was the OSCE representative on freedom of the media to meet prisoners together, and we did it, and it was extremely effective, I would say, and impactful, because you had two high-level mandates visiting people. Many of those people were released afterwards. But there are many things. You mentioned Russia and the reason for stopping the live stream. There are so many of those occasions when you have mandates working together, but it's simply impossible so there is nothing hidden there. But it's for the safety of people, not the holder of the mandates, but the people we are dealing with. And it's really not advisable to be too public. And special procedures, for example, at the OSCE, I initiated this procedure that is still ongoing, and I saw the other day that there was a statement on AI and human rights, I think, and freedom of expression, the OSCE, the UN, African, so even expanding it, even those are regional, expanding it to global, using the UN, African and American representatives as well, which is important, but of course, that is something that is more recommendation type and academic, but still extremely important. And then, on typical sort of cases of high-level attention by media, there were situations, of the visits together, to certain spots, particularly when it comes to, migration, for example. But I will not dwell into this because I think it's important. So that also ODIHR, for example, and Venice Commission often issue joint legal opinions. But then again, that is established practice. And it also really depends on the individual that is holding the mandate. If that person is eager or open to do some joint work. Sometimes, there is a total no, and I had this for different reasons. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying, that's the way. We are all different people doing, work in a different way. But what is important, that we are all really true to the cause. Another issue that I would mention when it comes to synergies is trust that you need to gain, from civil society. When you say, when they approach you, like I was approached on many occasions, and many, probably people that approached me on certain issues are present there. When I said no, for me, it was extremely important that they understand that my no is not because I don't want to do it, I'm afraid to do it. It's politically sensitive, and because that was never a case with me, at least. So it is something else. it is a different way of dealing with certain issues. So there I would stop on synergies. And I know the civil society sometimes wants, the mandates and everybody to do things together, but the constraints are, sometimes, not only in the mandates, but there are also political implications, global, normative standards, different issues that can really play a very important role. Membership inconsistencies I already mentioned, and resource sometimes, and also capacity gaps. What I think is important to mention, and what I did on many occasions, for example, I was the first, together with my team, to visit Ukraine and Bucha and Borodyanka and Irpin in it was March, we were at the border, and then already beginning of April, we were there. So globally, the Council of Europe Commissioner was first to go there as the mandate, high-level mandates. Also, when it comes to Karabakh, in 23 in October. After that, of course, I briefed my colleagues who were interested, so there were no hidden issues there. How much it helped, I cannot really judge at this very moment. But what I think is important, that at least during my mandate, I was always extremely open to share the views, to advise, and to see how we can do better. Even though constraints are, as you know, sometimes really of extraordinary nature. So I would stop there on synergies because, that's how I use my experience more than anything else, because there are different views on how the mandates should be working, and, why are those differences in approaching, or why is UN, for example, not mentioning a certain country or a certain case when it comes to, regional organizations really, raising alarm. So maybe, that can be a, strategic move or not, but it's on case-by-case basis. I can just mention the case of Daphne. That is so close to my heart, Daphne's case, and the struggle there. As an example of total embarrassing, really terrifying silence that I felt at the OSCE when she was still alive. Nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to listen. And one of the worst harassments I had as the OSCE representative on freedom of the media was in relation to that case. I left in March 2017. I talk about this case very openly. She was murdered in October, assassinated. And then, I will not go into further, but at the very beginning, when she was still alive, when there were warning signs coming from the OSCE representative on freedom of the media, very loud, very direct, informing the Permanent Council during the sessions, there was a total silence. I'm not saying, it led to what happened, but it is a warning sign on how, silence from the ones that are actually in charge can play a very important role.
Thank you very much, Dunja. This is exactly what we are trying to explore. We all understand the constraints in the mandates, in resources. My problem, and I think a challenge to tackle, is exactly this lack of fully exploring the possibility for synergies that derive from other reasons, rather, the reasons of not exactly knowing what each institution is doing, without knowing that other NGOs are out there doing the same thing, and the limitations that come from lack of will, rather, to cooperate. So not lack of resources or capacity, but lack of will. And this links to what you said about how the personal element plays a very important role. So we need to make more people in positions of responsibility on those matters to want to cooperate. So this is rather what we are trying to overcome. Thank you so much. I'm giving the floor to our audience for one or two quick questions to Dunja. Yes, please. Please state your name and capacity, because Dunja cannot see us.
So, hello, Dunja. Fredrik Sandberg. I was the former head of the execution department. And I experienced during my life in the Council of Europe a lot of work to have the national human rights institutions better motivated to take on board the convention requirements. I will participate at 2 events in the 90s and 2000s where we try to do this. Now, that is one of your mandates, to try to boost the involvement of these institutions. Now we have the European network, which has been put in place, which is, of course, a great... No, you don't hear? No? Ah.
It's very sort of, I hear I hear you, but I cannot really, comprehend what are you saying. So it's, it's very sort of...
Is this better if I speak like this?
Yeah, maybe it's better.
Okay. Fredrik Sandberg, former head of the execution department. I'll try to look in your eyes to see if you hear me. Well, I don't know, but I'll try to sit here if that improves things. My question was a little bit how you had experienced the development of national human rights institutions and their involvement in securing respect for the European Convention of Human Rights during your mandates. The background is that when we started this exercise, that involvement was rather poor. And a lot has happened since, and you have done a lot, and I just wanted to check with you what your experience has been of the involvement of ombudsmen and civil or of rights defenders or whatever they are called domestically, in taking on board the convention and making it a major concern for them in their supervisory work of how governments function.
Okay.
Yes, no.
So, okay. So can you just repeat once again, because I didn't hear the organization.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because that I think would be much better. Because again, I didn't. Okay. Hi.
Yes. Hello, Dunja. Fredrik Sandberg.
Good. All right. This is much better now. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll take it from the beginning then. In my career in the Council of Europe, there have been a lot of efforts to try to mobilize the national human rights institutions. And now that is part of the mandate, and what we hoped and what we have seen has been achieved by the Commissioner of Human Rights. But still, at least when I was head of the department, there were a number of states where the national human rights institutions, whether they were ombudsmen or rights defenders or whatever they were called, were still rather less ambitious, put it that way, to involve in the European Convention of Human Rights. And I just wanted to hear from you, what was your experience of the development of these institutions as partners in this implementation work?
Thank you very much. That was an extremely important part of the mandate. And of course, among many other issues that we dealt with, that was seen as one of the many priorities. And also there was a strong push to do more by, the roof organizations like ENRI and others in order to do more. But the constraint, of course, is very much on what you just mentioned, differently established mandates, or to put it really directly, mandates or national human rights institutions or ombuds institutions that are not independent. And that's a very sort of known reality that among Council of Europe member states there are dozens of the ones that are not even close, not only to Paris principles or something that is on paper, but actually in practice. With that, I use every opportunity to talk to individuals, to people holding those mandates, but particularly to the governments that are not allowing those institutions to be truly independent and to do their job. When it comes to the implementation of the judgments, they should be playing a crucial role on a national level, but also on international, raising awareness with the different international organizations, working with civil society in the country, and on many failed judgment implementations, you have those institutions like doing nothing. I'll start with my own country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, where you have institution that is established in a very complex way. There was never a word about the importance of the implementation of the judgments, not to mention working on the particular judgments that are not implemented by the states. We mentioned yesterday Turkey, Azerbaijan. I mean, we all know that there are wonderful people and colleagues that we know working there, but they are simply not doing their job. And this is what I told them to their face. Because I do not think, that is the way, this should be working. So for the Council of Europe, I always said it's not just commissioner. It is something that I always saw as a joint effort, as something that should be done, working with national human rights institutions. I had several gatherings. The last one was, I think, in Amsterdam on artificial intelligence, where it was very successful. It was extremely important for all of us. It was also very learning process for me on how they are trying to implement something that is already making a huge impact on human rights in our in Europe, but beyond as well. But also, there were meetings on the side on sensitive cases, mainly non-implementation of the judgments. So maybe more prominence, more visibility, and I think if you ask me which organization is there to play a very important role, is the Council of Europe, of course. But the moment you touch the reality, if I can say so, the moment you touch the case that is a sensitive case, the moment you want to really work, on the case that is causing a lot of media attention, then you feel yourself, and I'm sure you did, that there is like hands off, we cannot do anything. Because of this or that. But national human rights institutions, when they are truly independent, when they are, true to the mandate, they can do miracles in the society. And I work with many of those people that are extraordinary in a very difficult situations. That they are courageous, they are a leading example for leading society, and they can be, agent for change within the society if they are led to do their work. But in many countries, it's just It's embarrassing, and that should be also on the list of political dialogue, even from Secretary General of the Council of Europe, in my view, when meeting high-level, politicians and leaders of the states to let them do their work. But that's still not the case, unfortunately. But that should not stop anyone, trying to engage, because the open door policy for me is crucial. I had, I really struggled, and I worked together with my former colleague and a friend, Furkan Tishayev, on Russia, and trying to really work in almost impossible circumstances with the Russian Federation ombudsperson, knowing the differences and everything in order to reach certain outcomes that are positive for people that are in danger and struggle. So you need to find a fine line, a very sensitive line, in order to engage and leave the door open, because a closed door is never an option for me. And that institutions can be an opener if you manage to build trust. And I'm here talking about difficult cases in difficult states. Otherwise, it's just colleagues working together and sharing information and being. I was extremely open to this dialogue with human rights, national human rights institutions. I mean, they had a direct, of course, they had contacts with my colleagues, but they had a direct contact to me as well in order to raise alarm about certain issues that are important for the society.
Thank you very much, Frederick and Dunja. Perhaps one last question I can convey it to Dunja if it is easier. Yes, Ramuto, you can. Yes, please come. Please come. Thanks, Frederick. We're being interactive today, which is good.
Hello, good morning. My name is Ramute and I work for the European Human Rights Advocacy Center in London. We litigate cases before the European Court and push for implementation. I guess my question is similar, also about synergies, but with a different actor, and that would be media. Because, we often feel that judgments and the issues around implementation of the judgments stay within our circles, and it's quite a challenge to bring those judgments to the wider public, basically to the streets, to the domestic streets, so to say. And we will be having a session discussing exactly that, but I wondered what's your experience and what's your perspective on that, and if, perhaps not only about judgment specifically, but human rights issues more generally from your respective mandates, and if you have any advice to the civil society as to how to effectively, or any good practice examples as to how to effectively engage the media. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very important question, and a question that actually came to my attention, not because of what you just asked, but because of your work and role of the lawyers in defending cases, but then also litigations, third-party interventions. Because in many states, you had situations where lawyers were attacked. So they became human rights defenders, at least how I saw them. In addition to journalists and human rights defenders and activists, you had also lawyers that had to go through it, and that's why it is really important to have NGOs and organizations that have lawyers that are in so-called secure states that can litigate and work. It's crucial, I would say, that this continues. But when it comes to role of the media, I can say that judgments, in my view, they don't make headlines. People do. Journalists or just activists. It's really important. Just a second. I apologize that there was some background noise. What I think is important is to mention that the journalists, they don't need to be lawyers in order to write about this, but they need to understand why certain judgment matters. Because sometimes I see reporting that is really not going into the core issues that are related, what the judgment says, what the implementation really means in practice, and why this delay, which is often the case for writing about this, really matters. So it's also an educational sort of way of working with the litigators, so the lawyers, and with media. I was always saying that there is some kind of maybe a need for a guide to human rights judgments to be available for journalists and scholars as well. The issues that are at core, what the court ruled. Did the government listen? Is the government doing it because of technical issues or not implementing, or it is political? There are different, reasons for it. And journalists, human rights defenders, lawyers, what they do is important, it's crucial. But the responsibility lies with the state. And what I really never wanted to see, and I saw it on so many occasions, that the work of the state and the state institutions in a way, replaced, with the work of the ones that are trying to push for it. There are numerous cases. Media, should continue raising the alarm. But what I think is important is the pressure on the states, by peer states, by international organizations, by the mandates like the ones I had, previously. There was no country visit where I didn't push for the implementation of the judgments. You can see all the reports, also my predecessors. So that is the issue that should always stay very high. But really relying on media only to do the job in order to raise awareness within the society is fine. But the real implementation and the responsibility and the finger should always be pointed towards the state, because that's their job. Like, you have your job, I have my job. In so many occasions, you could see that they just sit and really do not care because something is happening there, it's like in the media. So the, journalists can really amplify the work of litigators and also different mandates. I mean, that's crucial. Partnering, with your organization, with legal clinics, which I think is also important, with investigative journalist networks. It's, really important. And journalists, they cover the implementation of court judgments. They can also put pressure on government, educate public, and there you need like synergies. When this is happening, we should all join, forces and the voices in order to put pressure, because what else? You try, to have a dialogue, you issue a report, you have closed door discussions, you have letters, I always call those love letters with the leaders of participating states, because you try to be like, diplomatic and nice, and then you have a statement. And then, the pressure also comes your way, which is fine, because that's, what those jobs are. You should be able to really, stand firm and really have, sometimes they're bullying you using different tools. But some kind of, when it comes to particular case, there should be a media, strategy plan. a call to action, for journalists. There are many specialized networks, particularly in the Western Balkans, like BIRN or others, they are actually reporting on those cases. But it's very rare to see that, one journalist, goes into this. It really depends on the country. But what I think is important not to forget that the ultimate responsibility for implementing court judgments lies with the state. Simple as that. And the work that journalists, civil society, and international mechanisms play play a critical role, but then at the end, what you always wait, and what I know many people are waiting when it comes to several participating states of the Council of Europe, that there is a strong political push by Committee of Ministers, by Parliamentary Assembly, in order to make things happen. Otherwise, the states in question will just continue ignoring and pretending and avoiding and treating court judgments, which I think is extremely dangerous practice that is present for so many years now, as recommendations or something that they just don't care. And I'm here talking also about big states. And then you have, small states, if I can call them like that, just, waiting in a queue to do the same. And that's why I warned on so many occasions, publicly as well, the founding states of the Council of Europe not to go that way and not to offer a possibility for others to do the same by avoiding implementation, criticizing the convention, which we heard recently, asking for changes when it comes to only migration. When I saw this, I just could not believe my eyes. That was extraordinary, dangerous and inappropriate. It was a clear attack on the court, and I do not think there was that much attention paid to this dangerous attempt by some of the most important member states of the Council of Europe. It was not related to the free speech, but this time was migration. Maybe next time there will be free speech. So that's why I think it's extremely important to stay alert and to hold states to power. And their duties to implement judgments in full, because they signed voluntarily to be members of the Council of Europe or participating state of the OSCE, not to mention the UN. Nobody pushed them to do so. But now the way they behave is really not something that will stay in history as a example of really being true to what they all agree upon.
Thank you very much, Dunja. And if I may add, one of the most chilling elements, I'm really happy that that letter did not get more attention than it did, as you mentioned. But the one chilling element is the division I knew of people between the right kind of people and the wrong kind of people. That was for me the most worrisome, dangerous element among many. And this wording came in the guise of, as was the closing statement of that letter, of calling for an open-minded and novel approach to the conventions, to the court's case law. And to me, there's nothing novel there. There's nothing open-minded there. It's just a big regression towards situations of the past that generated tragedies, the greatest tragedies mankind ever knew. Now, several decades on, we start talking about divisions between the wrong and right kind of people. So I think we will stop there because the Ramute's question really paved the way for the discussion that we will be having with an immediately next panel on the role of the media into the implementation process and our role in enabling more space for journalists through education, as you mentioned, through synergies, through involving them into all discussions that pertain to implementation, but also through us becoming better in telling human stories and not speaking the legal language when we convey news about implementation developments or lack thereof. So we're about to start talking about all that, and our exchange paved the floor and paved the way for that. I thank you very much, Ramute, also for your intervention. And Dunja, what can I say? You have been so generous with lending your free time to us and engaging with us and our experts on these very important topics to us that brought us together here in Thessaloniki to celebrate in this way the closure of our 2-year free speech project. You will be hearing from us because we intend to keep working thematically on this topic. So we look forward to having you on board and by our side throughout the journey. And I thank you very much for being with us again today. And we wish you a good day, continuation of your free time in Montenegro. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's hardly free time because I'm engaging all the time, but I'm choosing really like you, the ones that I work closely with. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the conference and also free time. Engaging with colleagues. I also hope to see many of you soon. But do not give up on the court. It's the jewel, and it's the most important what we have in these challenging times. Also, the mandates. We live in a very dangerous time, as you know, when it comes to human rights, and the support coming from civil society and vice versa is crucial. So I wish you all the best, and I hope this was something that opened some questions and that you'll be able to really elaborate on it during your conference. And good luck with the projects and the future work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dunja. Have a nice day. So for those following online, we will just pause for 2 minutes while the speakers of the next panel come on the stage, and we will be right back with you.